if you do not turn towards your pain and heal it, you will spread your pain. If you turn towards your pain and you heal it, you will spread healing. Like, let's talk about how pain's expressed. Pain's expressed through cheating, lying, abuse of alcohol, drugs, masking it with people, using other people to heal you, which is not okay. It's not. When I started to finally see that my pain was trying to be masked by love, by wanting affection of people, by running from it and using other people's and their hearts in order to avoid my own pain, I started to see how pain is contagious. That if you're starting to see the results of your pain on other people, shame has us want to turn away. It has us want to shut down. It has us, I don't want to acknowledge the consequences of what's happened in my life because I have not turned towards myself. So the pain you see in them is really the pain that is within you. If this resonates with you in any way, is you can actually start to use the pain you've caused as the motivation for transformation, that it can actually be the source. I never want to hurt someone like that again. It doesn't mean you never will, because of course, you're human, and we make mistakes, and that's the point of actually having a life, is to learn from our mistakes. Now, everybody makes mistakes. It's just that when you start to take responsibility for your life, it's actually what you do with your mistakes that changes everything. When you start to actually look at your past, which might not bring you sunshine and rainbows, right? Like for most people, and you actually look at it and you actually feel it, you're not going to be able to change it. So the wish to change your past you'll be in pain constantly if you wish for a different history and a different past. The real catch to this is, of course, is that if you're willing to look at the results of your choices in your life and where that came from within you, the pain you had, the unresolved stuff you have, the anger, the rejection, the abandonment, all of that stuff, the abuse, whatever it is, and you're able to hold it and actually listen to it and get to know it, then you won't try to escape it with drugs, alcohol, people, sex, relationships. And you'll start to choose from a place that is loving by starting to love yourself. There's always a moment you can change. You don't have to stay in that cycle. You can actually decide right now, I never want to spill my pain on other people again. And when you grab that, and you use it to transform you, then you have this opportunity now where you are responsible for your life. And you can actually change and decide how you're going to show up and the types of relationships you're going to create. And that you're going to be a beacon of healing. So the saying, hurt people comes from this spilling out of pain, this undealt with bullshit. And you gotta think of all the people you're waiting for an apology from. Who's waiting for one from you? When we actually open up to the healing, if you know how contagious pain is, healing is just as contagious, if not more. And you can't hide behind it. You can't pretend. You can't have false vulnerability and false bullshit fucking healing. People can smell that shit from a mile away. Inauthenticity is so stinky. It's so stinky. You can decide in this moment, that you're ready to change, that you're ready to spread healing instead of pain, that you're ready to finally seek out what you need to listen to, and your teacher will come. You know, that's the thing, is like right time, right message. And as you grow from one teacher, you find another. You can read books. You can do so many different ways that you can find healing. Healing is an ongoing journey. It's not just like, hey, I got to the place and now I'm done and I never have to do any more goddamn personal work. No, you have to continue to do the work. When you actually start to do the work, when you actually start to step into your fullest potential, into your fullest power, and you stop using pain as a reason to not start something, to not allow someone to love you. Like, stop using pain as a reason to not let yourself win. You know, let's stop staying in your pain because it's familiar. Like, step into something that's unknown, which is love, which is expansion. Every time you don't know how something's gonna work out, a conversation, a choice, a job, anything that feels expansive, anytime you don't know, it means you have to grow into it. As you fill yourself up, that self-love, that self-healing, as you fill yourself up, you will spill it out. You'll be walking down the street, you'll see that you light up rooms, that people will just start talking to you. Because what you've done is you've started to get your body in a state of gratitude, your body in a state of appreciation. And gratitude is the elixir of life. It will wash through your cells. We have to start to see that our psychology, our physiology, our bodies are actually responsive to anger, to high stress, to cortisol. And so if you are constantly living in an angst, angry, unproductive, hurt state, your body won't heal well. And that's the study of psychoneuroimmunology, this connection between endocrine, immune, nervous system, and our emotions. When you're in a state of sadness, if you're watching this and you're sad and life's brought you some fucking grenades and you're like, fuck that, I'm not grateful for shit. Like, how am I supposed to be good? Yeah, I get it. But you could start in this moment and you could go, I have a phone where I'm watching a guy get mad at me. Like, that's pretty awesome. Like, be grateful that you have a fucking phone with a cell signal and some data and a guy yelling at you. Like, it's pretty amazing that we are all around the world and we are talking on a fucking video. Like, isn't that fucking insane? We should all just be so excited about that. You know, everything in life works as a system. You can't hack life. You can't. There's no such thing as hacking. There's just fucking long ways to get somewhere. There's no shortcuts anywhere. There's no shortcuts. There's just impractical long ways to go places. And most of us wait till we hit the rockest of bottoms to actually change. We wait till like the fucking dump truck lands on our head, and you don't have to wait for that. You can literally change right now. It cannot hurt that much right now, but you can actually decide to change. And that's the moment everything transforms. Is like, people don't take 2 years to quit smoking. They take the moment they fucking decide to quit smoking. So just dig into the emotion. How upset are you with how you're showing up to life? Have you seen how much you've hurt people? Has your cheating, your lying, your anger, has it caused disconnection? Is that enough? Is that enough for you to actually change? And I can't, it took me a long time to get to that place, but I'm like, if I could tell you, you don't have to wait, I had to wait till I really got a 2x4 to the head. The reason that anger and aggression and hurting people is easier than healing, it's just perceivably easier. It's not actually easier. It's just perceivably easier because your short-term gain is a lot quicker. You won't have to deal with other people. You'll keep being reminded that you're shitty. You'll still see the results of your pain. And what you're doing is you're avoiding your transformation, but the healing only seems harder because when you turn towards your healing, you're turning towards shame of taking responsibility of how you've shown up for life. But it's so much easier to snort cocaine. It's so much easier to drink. It's so much easier to do that, isn't it? And now that's my guiding system, is like the moment I'm like, oh, that wasn't a good choice. I know what my edge is. And the moment I step out of alignment, I know what alignment is. And we're constantly learning what our integrity is. We're constantly learning what alignment feels like. But alignment, being connected to who you are, truthfully, being authentic, where there's no space between who you see and who I am, right? Like, between you and I don't misrepresent myself. I dissolve the space between who someone pretends to be and who someone is. That's why I wrote articles about when I used to be more promiscuous, when I was, dishonest. When I started to own these things that I had a lot of shame about, I just started to think like, man, if someone was to come out me one day, what would they out me about? Like, how could I be called a fraud? And that's when I started to write about all the things that I'd learned and how in some way I'd been fraudulent to myself historically. And through that, I started to really align and see that healing comes from just telling your most vulnerable stuff, from sharing the things that you think have power over you. And it was terrifying. Every time I would hit publish, I would be like, oh man, what's gonna happen? And you know what? The worst possible thought I ever had never happened. Like, I thought old friends would be like, yeah, you were this way, or and it didn't. I really just started to go through this journey. And you are probably on that journey if you're watching this, and you might be in the middle of it, and you might be at the beginning of it. But I promise you that if you step towards who you are, this authentic space of the voice that's always been gnawing at you, the intuition, the guidance, the whatever it is, you might call it God, you might call it whatever, the universe. But if you start to actually step towards it, it's the same voice that told you what your dream was when you were young. It's the same voice that says, if you could do anything, you would do this. That's the same voice because it's not different than you. It comes through you. You are the conduit, And the guidance that's trying to tell you how you need to show up in your life, that never goes away. The voice gets louder, but if you ignore it, it gets louder. And then we do drugs, we use people, we do things in order to avoid the voice. You have to make integrity the most important thing in your life. And when you make integrity the most important thing in your life, where there's not such a thing as I need to be more honest. You need to be honest. There's no scale of honesty. There's only what is truth and what is not. So when your partner says, sometimes you hurt me when you do that, stop defending yourself and stay connected to them and say, I'm sorry. That must be really hard. I want to be better at that. And when you give that feedback to someone, do it gently and lovingly, and sometimes we just need to be called out. I think the baseline message here is it's time. It's time that we all fucking wake up. It's time that we all transform. It's time that we actually learn language. And ask, does the world need you hurting or does the world need you healed? That's your work. You're on this planet to help, to contribute. Why don't you rebel against pain? Why don't you probably spend enough time on fucking Instagram after we get off this call. Do some work. Read a book. Transform. Take this and do something with it. Stop giving up on the healing right before you get it. All right? And if you could do me a massive favor, if you went on iTunes and you wrote a written review and 5 stars, that would be amazing. I'd be so grateful. I know it will only take you 3 minutes. I love all of you. Have the best day.